Leon, the undefeated Monarch, versus Ash Ketchum, Alola's first champion. The battle went down in history as Ash's ultimate final battle in the finals of the Masters 8 tournament. Ash gave it everything he had to defeat Leon, with Pikachu being the last Pokemon standing on his strongest team to date. But should Ash really have won this battle? This battle is one of the most controversial in the entire anime, mainly due to two circumstances: Ash being allowed to use all three battle mechanics in this battle, and the inconsistent power scaling of Pokemon journeys. Hey Pokemon champions, I'm Champion Blaze, and today we're gonna break down Ash versus Leon, but in a different way. We're going to see if Ash really should have won this battle, and if there were any opportunities for Leon to win much earlier in this battle. Or perhaps there might have been a chance for Ash to win much earlier instead. We'll go over every misplay from both trainers to see who really should have came out on top. But keep in mind, despite the inconsistent power scaling of Pokemon journeys and the fact Ash was able to use all three battle mechanics, I will not be factoring those into this analysis. I will simply be observing and analyzing the actual battle we got and make my judgments based on that, although certain parts may call for a bit of speculation. So could Leon have won this battle any sooner? We won't know unless we jump into the battle. The battle begins and Ash sends out Pikachu first, stating that he wanted Pikachu to be the first on the field as it is his very first Pokemon. Opposite him, Leon sends out Cinderace, his #1 striker. The referee officially begins the match and Ash calls out his iconic Thunderbolt attack, while Leon attacks with Scorching Sands. The attacks are like cross counters, and Scorching Sands delivers a gut-wrenching blow to Pikachu, while Cinderace is completely unaffected by Thunderbolt. This is due to Cinderace possessing the Libero ability, which allows it to become the same type as the move it's using. Unable to combat Cinderace with Pikachu, Ash recalls Pikachu to his side. A fine move to make, as Thunderbolt and Electro Web would be rendered useless now. Quick Attack would be resisted, and it would be foolish to keep Pikachu in an attempt to use Iron Tail. So no misplay Ash. But oddly enough, Leon instantly recalls Cinderace in order to send out Inteleon. Now you could argue that Leon is saving Cinderace specifically for Pikachu, since Scorching Sands would get a stat bonus due to Libero, but Leon also has high horsepower on his Rillaboom as well, so he's technically got two Pokemon that could easily deal with Pikachu. Plus Leon hasn't even seen Ash's next Pokemon, but no misplay here because Leon is setting the entire pace of this battle for a majority of the battle. He's instantly shut down Pikachu already and forced Ash to switch, so by switching out Cinderace, he's keeping Ash on his toes and forcing him to adapt to whatever Leon sends out next, in this case, his Inteleon. But I would like to point out that Leon could have definitely kept Cinderace in the battle, since Scorching Sands would also be capable of dealing with Gengar as well, since it's a poison type and doesn't have Levitate as its ability. Inteleon hits the field and Ash also sends out Gengar. Leon starts by using Inteleon's signature move Snipe Shot, and Ash uses Shadow Ball. Snipe Shot makes a direct hit, but Gengar shakes it off and throws down Shadow Ball at Inteleon. Leon orders Inteleon to knock it down, and it destroys the Shadow Ball. Leon follows up immediately with Dark Pulse, super effective against the Ghost-type Gengar. Ash attempts to dodge the attack using Gengar's intangibility powers, but Leon responds saying it's pointless. Leon uses an Aqua Jet counter shield to draw out Gengar from its hiding spot. The swirling water pulls out Gengar, causing to topple and stumble across the water, and this is where Ash is going to get the first misplay of this battle. Gengar is a Ghost-type Pokemon, which are known in the vast majority to be able to float, levitate, and hover above the ground. We saw Ash's Gengar levitating and flying around mere moments ago, so why doesn't Ash just have Gengar do that to avoid all the water? Ash is so surprised by the counter shield tactic and so fixated on being able to hide from the attack that he completely neglects to even consider having Gengar fly up into the air to avoid the water. Had he done this sooner, then when he does, Gengar would have taken less damage and preserved more stamina, so misplay Ash. Gengar uses Will-O-Wisp to nullify Aqua Jet and create a big burst of steam across the field. With Inteleon unable to see where Gengar is, Ash decides that now is the time to Gigantamax, and here is where I feel I need to give another misplay to Ash. While I understand that Gengar is Ash's designated Pokemon to Gigantamax on his team, even if Gengar went down without using Dynamax, he still could have used his battle mechanic with another Pokemon, since Leon is allowing Ash to use all three mechanics. I believe Ash utilized the Galar-based mechanic a bit too soon. Inteleon may be able to enhance its vision with its specialized eyes, but with Gengar being a ghost type, this burst of steam creates the perfect environment for Gengar as a ghost type. Ash could have used this opportunity to score some well-timed hits against Inteleon with any of its moves from Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, or Will-O-Wisp. He could have used Will-O-Wisp to actually give Inteleon that burn damage and then land another hit with a move like Shadow Ball. Then Gengar could have potentially taken it down more easily before even needing to Gigantamax, or if it still needs to Gigantamax, then maybe one Max Ooze would have taken it down and Ash potentially could have been able to use G-Max Gengar against Mr. Rime as well. But now that's a bit too speculative. However, I still believe that Ash jumped the gun on using G-Max instead of trying to at least battle with Gengar in its base form. He's going to do this same thing with Mega Evolution and Lucario later on, but at least Mega Evolution lasts the entire battle. But anyways, misplay Ash. With G-Max Gengar on the field, Leon uses a double Snipe Shot and Ash uses G-Max Terror. Inteleon is able to defend against G-Max Terror using Snipe Shot, but eventually it is hit by the move, and due to the effect of G-Max Terror, Inteleon is no longer able to switch out of the battle. Now while that's good for Ash because he can deal with one Pokemon at a time rather than adapting to Leon switching out his Pokemon, it makes you think if it was worth it to Gigantamax so early in the battle. Also, why does G-Max Terror move so slowly? Like his Gengar just waiting for Inteleon to deflect the attack? Just seems like it could have moved a bit faster than that. Inteleon uses Dark Pulse and Gengar uses Max Ooze. Inteleon fends off the attack for quite some time but eventually does land a critical hit with Dark Pulse. However, Inteleon is also struck down with Max Ooze. This makes Leon the first one to lose a Pokemon, but the critical hit from Inteleon's Dark Pulse causes Gengar's G-Max to prematurely end. Leon recalls Inteleon and sends out Mr. Rime and begins by using Freeze Dry. Ash responds with Sludge Bomb but it's frozen by Freeze Dry, along with the entire battlefield and Gengar as well. But upon freezing, Gengar's Cursed Body ability activates, causing Mr. Rime to be unable to use Freeze Dry for a while. Leon uses Psychic Terrain to finish setting up the battlefield for Mr. Rime, and then uses Expanding Force to finish off Gengar. The battle is now all tied up, and for those that don't know, Mr. Rime is the evolution of Galarian Mr. Mime and is a Psychic Ice type, which is why Expanding Force was able to knock out Gengar since it's a Poison type. With Gengar out of the battle, Leon declares this Inteleon's victory, and states that in a full battle, the overall victory comes from the whole team. We then get a little reaction out of Ash here. He seems a bit shocked. This might imply that Ash may need to rethink his strategy and try a different approach to defeat Leon and his Pokemon. Who will Ash send out next to take on Mr. Rime? Let's find out, shall we? We pick up the battle with Mr. Rime skidding around the ice battlefield fused with Psychic Terrain. After taking into account the state of the battlefield, Ash's next Pokemon is the fighting type Surfetch'd, which rightfully confuses Leon. But let's see what Ash has planned. Ash uses Fury Cutter to combat Mr. Rime, a smart move as bug type attacks are super effective against psychic types. Surfetch'd and Mr. Rime engage in a sword duel with their Leek and Cane respectively, but Surfetch'd does manage to land a direct hit with Fury Cutter. Ash follows up with Brutal Swing, a dark type move, so Ash has yet to misplay here despite Surfetch'd's type disadvantage as it has excellent coverage here. But Mr. Rime stops Surfetch'd's Brutal Swing dead in its tracks and delivers a powerful blow with Expanding Force, knocking back Surfetch'd. Mr. Rime goes for Triple Axle and lands 3 consecutive hits against Surfetch'd. It quickly follows up with Expanding Force, but Surfetch'd dodges the attack by using Detect. It then pole vaults like an Olympic athlete to go and retrieve its shield. It gets it just in time to defend against an oncoming Triple Axle attack. Ash then uses Fury Cutter not to attack Mr. Rime, but to cut up the ice battlefield. With Fury Cutter being a bug type move, it is somehow able to dissipate the Psychic Terrain within the ice battlefield. This was a pretty clever move and something Leon wasn't expecting. We also saw Ash use a similar tactic in the Sinnoh League when he had Infernape use an underground Flare Blitz to remove Paul's Toxic Spikes from the battlefield. With the Psychic Terrain having been eliminated, Ash recalls Surfetch'd and decides to end this matchup with Lucario. Lucario comes out and Ash immediately decides to Mega Evolve Lucario, and again Ash jumps the gun on using his next battle mechanic. Maybe this speaks to how Ash truly never reached Leon's level and wouldn't have won if he had only used one battle mechanic, but we're not going to discuss that. We're going to simply focus on the battle. With Mega Lucario on the field, Ash goes for Bullet Punch. Mr. Rime dodges it and strikes with Triple Axle, dealing good damage to Lucario. Mr. Rime attacks with another Triple Axle and deals even more damage to Lucario despite this move being an Ice type attack, which Lucario is resistant to. Ash has Lucario use its aura to sense Mr. Rime's movements and build up its aura. Leon attempts to go for another Triple Axle, but Lucario dodges the attack and hits Mr. Rime with Aura Sphere. This attack knocks out Mr. Rime. Leon recalls Mr. Rime and then sends out Dragapult. Ash leads with Double Team and gets in close range to Dragapult and then strikes it down fiercely with Bullet Punch. As Lucario lands, Dragapult uses Flamethrower, super effective against a Steel type like Lucario. In the middle of the attack, Ash recalls Lucario, the first time a Mega Evolved Pokemon has ever returned to its Pokeball. It was a wise decision. Ash then sends out Dracovish, which is technically a smarter decision than sending out Dragonite. Ash now knows he needs to deal with Flamethrower, which would be 4 times resisted by Dracovish rather than normally resisted by Dragonite. Later on, we'll learn that Leon's Dragapult also has Thunderbolt, but Thunderbolt is neutral to both of Ash's Dragon types, so it's better to have a 4 times resistance to Flamethrower. Ash commands Dragon Rush and Dracovish charges in towards Dragapult. Leon responds with Dragon Darts, Dragapult's signature move. The first Droopy stops Dracovish dead in its tracks, and Dracovish catches the other Droopy in its mouth. Leon uses Dragon Darts again to force Dracovish to spit out the Droopy it caught, but then something peculiar happens to Dracovish's body. Its spikes on its torso begin to glow and release a strange energy. It's never explained what this is or how it was triggered, but the closest explanation I can think of would be that this is similar to when Ash's Grotto ate its own energy ball while battling Palmer's Rhyperior and it gained massive amounts of power. You could say Dracovish ate the Dragon Darts attack, which is what triggered this release of Primal Dragon energy. Leon stays on the offensive and uses Thunderbolt. Then Dragapult charges in toward Dracovish with its spikes ready to trap Dracovish, and it succeeds in catching Dragapult with those spikes. Now here's where I'm giving a misplay to Leon. Dracovish has time to prepare to trap Dragapult, and we see this happen as Dragapult charges in. So why didn't Leon just have Dragapult avoid the spikes? You could argue that Leon had no idea the spikes would be able to trap Dragapult like that, but even so, why take the chance? I mean, he is shocked to be trapped by the spikes, but still, they're pointy spikes glowing with dragon energy. Would have been better to avoid them altogether. Misplay Leon. With Dragapult caught in its grip, Dracovish uses Fishious Rend on Dragapult, dealing a lot of damage with a lot of power. But Leon warns Ash not to underestimate his Dragapult, as he has it use Dragon Tail. In an attempt to prevent Dragapult from using Dragon Tail, Ash has Dracovish use Ice Fang. But even with Dragapult frozen solid by Ice Fang, Dragon Tail still lands a direct hit on Dracovish and returns Dracovish to its Pokeball and forces Dragonite into the battle. And this is where I need to step in and call some shenanigans on Leon's part. Dragon Tail is a move we've seen used at least once in every Pokemon anime since it was introduced in Generation 5, being used by Ash's Charizard against Iris's Dragonite, used by Clement's Heliolisk against Ash's Goodra, and used by Kiawe's Turtonator against Brock's Steelix. Not once in the past has Dragon Tail in the anime had the same effect as Dragon Tail in the games. So why does Dragon Tail get its in-game effect here instead? It's never explained why, and quite frankly doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Maybe only super experienced Pokemon are able to trigger the effect? Regardless, I'm calling shenanigans here. With Dragonite now in the battle, Dragapult uses Dragon Darts and Ash responds with Dragon Dance to raise Dragonite's offense and speed. The Dreepy are locked onto Dragonite and Ash has it use Dragon Claw, but it can't land a hit on the Dreepy. Dragapult calls the Dreepy back and Dragonite chases after them, and this is where Ash makes yet another misplay. By having Dragonite follow the Dreepy, Dragapult is able to counter with Dragon Tail and switch out Dragonite for Lucario, once again throwing Ash off his game and ratcheting up the pressure on him. Had Ash not been so hasty in chasing the Dreepy, he could have responded with Hurricane to blow the Dreepy off course, potentially throwing Dragapult off its game and allowing Dragonite to deal some damage with not only Hurricane, but also Dragon Claw. So misplay to you, Ash. You might have been able to avoid another sudden switch. Lucario is back on the field, and Ash has it deliver a speedy Bullet Punch on Dragapult. Leon's next attack is Thunderbolt, and this is where Ash makes a fatal misplay. In response to Dragapult's Thunderbolt, Ash has Lucario use Reversal. Granted, Reversal would have done a lot of damage had it connected, considering all the damage Lucario took while battling Leon's Mr. Rime, and the damage it took from Dragapult's Flamethrower earlier in the battle. The fact of the matter is, Reversal simply can't touch Dragapult to begin with. Reversal is a fighting type move, and Dragapult is a ghost dragon type, making it immune to Reversal. On top of it, the move is also physical. It would have been better for Lucario to counter with Aura Sphere to cancel out the Thunderbolt, and then immediately attempt to use Reversal. It still wouldn't have worked, but at least then Lucario wouldn't have been hit by Thunderbolt and gotten paralyzed. But by choosing to use Reversal, he's chosen to tackle Thunderbolt head on, knowing full well it's a move that can cause paralysis. And before you say, oh well, maybe Ash didn't know what type of Pokemon this was, do remember that Ash did spend some time with his Pokemon earlier in Pokemon Journeys when him and Leon spent the day together. So Ash, I'm sorry, but big misplay here as you've let Lucario become paralyzed and be defeated much sooner than it probably would have been. Ash recalls Lucario and sends Dragonite back into the battle. Seemingly having learned from his mistake earlier against Dragapult, Ash chooses this time to go for Hurricane instead. The winds blow Dragapult around and Leon responds by having Dragapult let loose a huge Thunderbolt. This Thunderbolt neutralizes the Hurricane and deals damage to Dragonite. Ash tells Dragonite to fly high and Leon uses Dragon Darts. The Dreepy are fired off and Dragonite uses Draco Meteor. The Dreepy are then shot down as Dragapult closes in on Dragonite. Dragonite grabs onto Dragapult, endures a Thunderbolt, and uses its signature finisher of Dragonite Meteor while spinning in mid-air. No misplay to anyone here, as Leon probably assumed had he gotten in close he could have used Dragon Tail again, but by spinning Dragapult, Dragonite can ensure this doesn't happen. Dragonite crashes Dragapult into the ground and defeats it, leaving it unable to battle. Leon recalls Dragapult and commends Ash for his excellent battling skills, but he then actually points out that despite being ahead right now, it's been at a heavy cost. He points out how his entire team has taken quite a bit of damage already. He sends out his mighty Rillaboom, and the next matchup is Dragonite versus Rillaboom. The battle continues and Leon takes the offensive using drum beating. Powerful roots emerge from the ground and head straight towards Dragonite, but Dragonite defends with Hurricane, holding back the roots and dealing damage to Rillaboom. Rillaboom ramps up its drumming and makes a shield with the roots to hold back Hurricane, lessening the damage. The roots resist Hurricane and break through to land successive hits against Dragonite, swatting it around and eventually knocking it to the ground. A pretty smart way to deal with a flying type attack. Ash then goes for Dragonite Meteor, hoping to have the same luck he did with Dragapult, but Leon is prepared to counter this move. As Dragonite flies down, it uses drum beating to counter the oncoming onslaught and actually has a third root emerge from the ground to grab Dragonite from behind. This root then slams it into the ground. Dragonite hastily rushes in towards Rillaboom, and Ash goes along with this and has it use Dragon Claw despite telling it to take extra care at the start of the battle. Leon responds with Acrobatics, and with the speed drop Dragonite received from drum beating, it's too slow to land a hit on Rillaboom, and Rillaboom strikes a devastating blow with Acrobatics and knocks out Dragonite. Next up on the field is Surfaced. Ash immediately begins with Meteor Assault in order to deal big damage to Rillaboom, knowing the kind of dangerous threat that this Pokemon is. Leon chooses to use high horsepower to counter the attack, and here I need to give another misplay to Leon. While I understand wanting to counter a big power move with your own powerful move, why not just dodge the attack and counter strike with Acrobatics? Even so, he could still attack head on with Acrobatics. He's gonna use it later in the battle against Surfetch, so I don't know why he just didn't use it here. Meteor Assault lands a critical blow against Rillaboom, but it's not enough to finish it off. Unable to move following the recoil from Meteor Assault, Rillaboom lands a direct hit with high horsepower, and again chooses not to use Acrobatics, which, keep in mind, is a flying type move. He could be dealing super effective damage, but is choosing not to. With Surfetched airborne from the attack, Ash quickly reacts by having Surfetch ride its Leak Shield, and it dodges the oncoming attack from Drum Beating. It gets ready to attack with Fury Cutter, and Leon finally goes for Acrobatics. Rillaboom grabs Surfetch's shield and throws it up its leak. Surfetch tries to dodge it, but Rillaboom quickly gets above it and smacks it down with Acrobatics. The power is too much, and Surfetched is unable to battle. With Surfetched out of commission, Ash switches into Dracovish again, still imbued with the Primal Dragon energy from before. Ash goes for Ice Fang, and Leon goes for Drum Beating. The roots seem to do a bit of damage to Dracovish, but it is having none of that, and it uses its spikes to bring the roots together in order to smash them to bits with Ice Fang, heavily damaging Rillaboom, or at least it looked that way. Rillaboom might not just like its roots being destroyed. It's kind of unclear. Ash then orders Dragon Rush, and Leon counters with high horsepower. Aided by the spirit and strength of its brother Surfetch'd and boosted from the Primal Dragon energy, a huge explosion occurs, and when the smoke clears, Rillaboom is unable to battle. Dracovish wins. Leon returns Rillaboom and sends out Cinderace again. Leon starts with High Jump Kick, which lands a direct hit. Ash uses Water Gun, which Leon cancels out with Pyro Ball. Ash goes for Vicious Run this time, but Leon meets it head-on using Iron Head. Cinderace has now switched between being Fighting, Fire, and Steel type all within a matter of moments, pressuring Ash even more, and something he is unable to counter effectively. Ash goes for one final move with Dragon Rush, and Leon goes for High Jump Kick. As Dracovish closes in with Dragon Rush, Cinderace actually dodges the attack and then strikes a devastating blow from above using High Jump Kick. This powerful attack finishes off Dracovish, and now this just makes me wonder why Leon couldn't have done the same thing with Rillaboom against Surfetch'd. Ash recalls Dracovish and sends out Pikachu onto the battlefield, his last Pokemon, but then Leon makes by far the biggest misplay of the entire battle. He recalls Cinderace to its Pokeball. Now, I can already hear you in the comments, and you're probably thinking exactly what I'm thinking. Why didn't Leon just keep Cinderace in the battle? And the answer to that is plot. Now, I wouldn't call this plot armor because those are two very different things, but I can understand Leon's desire to win this match with Charizard. It's his first Pokemon and his very best partner, so there's a lot of sentiment there. But in terms of being able to just outright win the battle as soon as possible, leaving Cinderace on the field was the far superior choice. This is a Libero Cinderace with Scorching Sands, so not only would Cinderace get a stab bonus to that move, but its Libero ability would make it a ground type, thus making it immune to Pikachu's electric type attacks. Pikachu would be rendered absolutely useless as a result, and Leon could have simply won the battle much sooner with Cinderace. But of course Leon doesn't do this superior play and instead sends out Charizard, who is weak to Pikachu's electric-type attacks. He immediately Gigantamaxes it. Ash goes for Thunderbolt, a good move with Charizard being a flying type. Charizard goes for Max Rockfall, but Pikachu dodges the attack. However, the after effects of Max Rockfall create a sandstorm which damages Pikachu. Then oddly enough, from way above, Ash decides to have Pikachu use Iron Tail. Iron Tail is a steel type move and Charizard is a fire type. I'm just trying to figure out why Ash thought this would make sense. Why didn't he just have Pikachu fire off another Thunderbolt? Why not use Electro Web? Go for the super effective damage, buddy. Iron Tail seems to do nothing against G-Max Charizard. I wonder why. And Leon then decides to go for Max Wormwind. This time I need to call shenanigans on Ash. When Charizard launches Max Wormwind, Pikachu simply endures the attack. It doesn't defend with a move or anything. It just sits there and somehow withstands the attack. So a bit of shenanigans on Ash's part. But then Ash decides that in order to combat the power of Gigantamax, he'll need his Z power. He looks at Pikachu and they decide to use their Z move. They prepare 10 million volt Thunderbolt and Pikachu charges up all its electricity and then fires off its Z move at Charizard. Leon responds with G-Max Wildfire. The two powerful moves collide and create a devastating force and powerful explosion of energy. The blast is so strong it returns Charizard to normal size and knocks back Pikachu. With the tremendous energy built up throughout this battle, Eternatus has now been summoned to the stadium. With Eternatus now brought forth to Winden Stadium, everyone assumes that this is the beginning of another Darkest Day. However, with the intention to not have history repeat itself, Eternatus uses its Dynamax cannon to rid the stadium of the swirling storm above it and clear up the skies. It then disappears and imparts Ash and Leon with a gift. Similarly to Tapu Koko giving Ash and Kukui another use of a Z move during their exhibition match at the end of the Alola League, Eternatus gives them another use of Dynamax during their battle. With an additional use of Dynamax at their disposal, Leon recalls Charizard and decides to Gigantamax Cinderace. A very wise decision. Gigantamax Cinderace hits the field, marking the anime debut of this Pokemon. Ash then goes and Gigantamaxes his Pikachu the first time since the beginning of the series. Now, while bringing Cinderace back into the battle was a wise decision, Leon immediately fumbles his new opportunity. In an attempt to wrap up the battle, Leon uses G-Max Fireball, Cinderace's signature max move, and Pikachu counters with G-Max Volt Crash, its signature max move. Now keep in mind that Leon Cinderace knows the moves of High Jump Kick, Pyro Ball, Iron Head, and Scorching Sands. This therefore allows him access to the max moves of Max Knuckle, G-Max Fireball, Max Steel Spike, and Max Quake. So why then didn't Leon decide to use Max Quake? Had he gone for this move, it would have done substantial damage to Pikachu and could have won in the match right there. The only thing Pikachu could have defended with was Max Steel Spike, but even so, ground moves are super effective against Steel types, meaning Max Quake would have had the edge over Max Steel Spike unless they just cancel each other out. So Leon, you probably could have won right here, so big misplay to you. Both Pokemon enjoy the other's signature G-Max move and it results in a huge explosion. Having exerted so much power, both Pokemon are returned to normal size. Pikachu stands tall and Cinderace is unable to battle. And this is also some shenanigans as well, since Cinderace has taken virtually no damage this entire battle since it was unaffected by Pikachu's Thunderbolt in the beginning of the match thanks to Libero making it a ground type, and due to completely dominating in its battle against Dracovish. I'm not gonna call it plot armor just yet, but it's definitely some shenanigans. Cinderace is returned to its Pokeball and it's time for Ash and Leon to use their aces in the final showdown of this battle, Pikachu versus Charizard. Pikachu begins with Quick Attack and Charizard counters with Ancient Power. Pikachu dodges all of the incoming rocks and strikes Charizard. It springs upward and again Ash decides to go for Iron Tail. This move will be blocked by Charizard using its tail, leading to Pikachu being hit with a barrage of Air Slash attacks. What Ash should have done was use Thunderbolt mid-air to deal super effective damage to Charizard and land comfortably on the ground. Then Pikachu would have avoided the Air Slash attacks right after. And we know Pikachu can use Thunderbolt in mid-air because he does this same move in his battle against Karina's Mega Lucario in XY and as well as against Alon's Charizard in the finals of the Kalos League. Leon fires off Fire Blast and Pikachu uses a giant Electro Web to defend from the attack. We then get a dynamic explosive clash between Pikachu's Thunderbolt and Charizard's Fire Blast. The moves are even, and for the third time in this battle, Ash goes for Iron Tail. What are you doing, bro? Iron Tail is resisted by a fire type like Charizard. Leon interestingly has Charizard take the hit, which is also he can deal damage with a point-blank Dragon Pulse to try and end the match, a move that granted him victory in round 1 against Alon's Mega Charizard X. But Pikachu jumps off Charizard and uses Thunderbolt to neutralize the Dragon Pulse. Ash says this is where the battle truly starts and Pikachu unleashes a giant surge of electricity. Now Leon is more fired up than ever and Charizard releases its hottest flames ever. Ash has Pikachu use quite literally the world's fastest Quick Attack and lands a direct hit on Charizard. Charizard Charizard uses the strongest H-Power attack we've ever seen, but Pikachu dodges all the rocks by jumping up from rock to rock. Charizard goes after Pikachu using Air Slash, but the attacks miss and Pikachu defends using Iron Tail. Pikachu is knocked off the metal beams and uses Iron Tail to defend from Air Slash mid-air while falling. Pikachu blocks every attack and tries to strike down Charizard, but instead crashes into the ground. This gives Charizard the opportunity to launch Fire Blast, which directly hits Pikachu, as Pikachu didn't have enough time to counter after getting its tail out of the ground. You could argue that Ash could have chosen to just run away rather than try to defend with Thunderbolt, but when you see just how small the reaction window was between getting its tail out of the ground and getting hit with Fire Blast, it's fine. Running or defending are both good options. This moment just depended more on the available time to actually respond to the attack, which Pikachu had very little of, so no misplay. After sustaining immense damage from Fire Blast, Pikachu's breathing becomes heavy, and it is on the verge of collapse. It tries to stay standing with all its might as everyone watches, but it succumbs to its exhaustion and pain and collapses. But while it's momentarily knocked out, Pikachu sees visions of all his friends he's made on his adventures with Ash, starting with the iconic Kanto Pokemon, his Johto Pokemon, his Hoenn Pokemon, his Sinnoh Pokemon, his Unova Pokemon, his Kalos Pokemon, his Alola Pokemon, and finally, his Journeys team. With the combined support of all of Ash's past teams, Pikachu gains the ultimate friendship boost and gets back into the battle stronger than ever, engulfed in electricity, going full on Super Saiyan. Now, is this plot armor? Probably, but I'll let you guys decide that in the comments. Going for one final ultimate attack, Ash tells Pikachu to use Thunderbolt, and it delivers its strongest Thunderbolt in history. Leon says to have a champion time, and Charizard 2 enters a boosted state. It then proceeds to deliver the strongest Fire Blast attack in Pokemon history. The two Pokemon collide with intense force. Pikachu powers through with all its might, and when the flames and electricity vanish, both Pokemon have reached their absolute limits. Charizard lets out one final cry and a burst of flames, and then gives into its exhaustion and collapses. Charizard is unable to battle, making Pikachu the winner and the victor, Ash Ketchum. Ash Ketchum has now become the world's strongest Pokemon trainer. So what did I think of this battle? Could Leon have won earlier, or is it Ash truly meant to be the very best like no one ever was? Well, there were massive misplays on both sides, and actually more of the bigger misplays came from Leon than Ash. Despite Leon putting himself at a massive disadvantage by allowing Ash to use all three battle mechanics, Leon proved just how strong of a trainer he truly is. But there were many moments where Leon should have used a different move or strategy that could have given him a higher advantage at various points in the battle. The same can be said for Ash, as during many moments in the battle he seemed rather hasty. But to answer the question of whether or not Leon was going to defeat Ash, 100% Leon would have defeated Ash. Mainly had Leon decided to use Max Quake against Pikachu when the Gigantamax near the end of the battle, Pikachu would have either been defeated right then and there, or it would have taken substantial damage that would have made it more difficult to stand up to Charizard. But even before that, Leon's mistake was returning Cinderace after beating Ash's Dracovish. Had he left Cinderace in the battle, he probably could have won there as well, since Ash had no other options left to deal with Cinderace. All in all, it was a magnificent battle, and both trainers battled incredibly well. There were some shenanigans, don't get me wrong, but had either side just played a bit differently and used different moves at a different time, Ash probably would have gained a bigger lead on Leon during the battle, and vice versa, as Leon definitely could have won the battle much sooner than he did. But let me know your thoughts on this battle in the comments below, and if there are any other opportunities for Leon or Ash to win this battle much sooner. Click the videos on screen for more Pokemon anime content like this. Thank you for watching, and a special thank you to our channel members for their extra support. With that being said, until next time, train hard, and I'll catch you guys later.